Get strong.
Alrighty, well, good morning and a happy Wednesday here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in to the throw-in. There we go. Had my echo on to the throw-in with Justin. Take you guys up for a 2-hour program right up until high noon. And this is it's an establishment. So, yesterday, gonna go on and do a show. Apparently there was some internet issues, so couldn't upload a live show from the internet. And that's the one thing, I guess, downside from having StreamYard, right? I mean, this is the separation from having a show, whether you're doing it live into an actual studio, to being able to do it from the luxury of your home. You think about all these radio stations. A lot of time they got to wake up, they got to head out to an actual facility, to a building, and they have to do a show. So, and for me, I get to roll over and wake up and put on a show and come on like 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, I woke up about 15 minutes, about 20 minutes ago. So I'm still getting ready for the morning. And I could just come on here and do a show just as I needed, compared to some of these other people. So that's some of the luxuries of being able to do a show from home, being able to do a podcast on YouTube, on anywhere you listen to any audio platforms, is to be able to roll out of bed minutes before it's supposed to start, hop in your chair, turn on a computer, and hit record, and you're right there, composed to some other people, other facilities where you have to actually go into a radio station. And don't get me wrong, I would love to be able to go into a radio station and figure out, and just have a actual foundation of where to put out to a show, right? The ones you hear about all the time, they usually have those desks that have different 3 different computers all over the place. They have microphones, headphones, TVs up all, so you can put all the sports on. So didn't get a chance to do one yesterday because the internet being out. Come out here, do a show here, and I like to make it from 9 to 11. All right, I like, because it gives me time before in the morning, it gives me time in the after the show to get things done before I have to continue on with my day, with my regular work. But I also kind of give myself that ability to, okay, if I wanted to come on an hour before, come on an hour after if needed. If I was running late, normally take my kids to school a couple times a week. So when I come home, it's like 15, I only get like 10 minutes to get ready. So if I don't feel like I'm getting, or if I sleep in, I don't have to rush to, have to find a way, to rush and get, a product out there, because I want to give you the best product that I have. Right. Coming on here. I already knew coming on to the show, and this is why I was able to wake up just minutes before the show started. But there's a reason why I already knew what I was going to be talking about today. Right? It's a Wednesday. We're kind of leaving the last weekend behind us, and we got to start looking forward. Got to start moving forward to this coming up weekend. Right? Baseball unravels even more. We start taking a look at the NFL and the upcoming games in week number 4. Right? We start covering some highlights and news and stuff like that, the ins and outs. We're getting ready for AEW Dynamite tonight, the aftermath of Grand Slam. So I already know things that I was going to cover. And some of the things I didn't get a chance to cover yesterday because I wasn't on the program yesterday. Okay, I'm going to kind of implement into that today. But before I get a chance to speak anything about sports, I want to kind of just reach out to you because for those who listen in, I want to kind of just do the, do the, to kind of clean up some homework, do some homework on this show. All right, it's been a while, but listen, I want to first thank you guys. If you're listening to us on YouTube, if you're listening to us live on Facebook or live on Twitter, I thank you guys for tuning into our show. I appreciate giving me 2 hours each and every morning to talk about sports. Okay, and I encourage you guys to weigh in. This is not just a show where I give you my thoughts and that's it. That's all that matters. No, I want you guys to weigh in, and here's how you do so. So when I'm on live, right, when I'm putting on a live show, I can only see the live comments coming from YouTube. Okay, so if you want a instant reaction inside that show of that day, and you want to comment on any subject matter, you got to head on over to our TNC Sports Talk YouTube page to see our live show. From there, you guys could comment and let me know. Now, normally, after the fact, all right, usually I wait until afterwards. I don't like to have, I only got one computer screen. I don't like to have many applications up. And the one thing I struggle is to have Facebook up. So if you're listening to Facebook, that's the second best option. All right. I probably won't be able to give you a comment that episode. Okay. But I will talk about anything that you guys want to talk about if you comment on the Facebook page. Okay. And I have no problem sharing it with you. So if you want, you hear about, we talk about Steve Barber when he comments all the time. I know he's extremely busy right now at work. Hopefully work goes very well. But when he has time, he tunes into each and every episode. He tunes in and he comments and he weighs his opinions. I ask the questions, he answers them. And listen, I'll read them and we answer some of them. We talk about that in conversations. So if you're on YouTube Live, you'll get an instant reaction. If you're on Facebook Live, you may get a day or two reaction, but I don't have a problem getting back to you on giving you a shout out on the show. Twitter, I hardly check. It's just something that's there providing extra content. So if you want to reach out to the show during the show, comment on the show, get involved in the conversations, those are the best ways to format us. All right. Now, here's the other thing. All right. So, yeah, we have it's called, our show is called The Throw-In. All right. Yes, it's with Justin, but it's called The Throw-In. If you guys want to if you guys have missed an episode, if you guys are at work, if you guys are in the car driving, I don't encourage you turning on YouTube. All right. This is why I make this an audio show at the moment. All right. It cuts out the work for me. All right. All I got to do is come on, hit record, and start talking about what I want to talk about. Okay. But do I miss the live screen? Of course. Is that something that I may consider getting back into? Yes. Very shortly, about a fact. I think there's been some conversations in the background about getting back into the live screen. There's just a lot of pre-work that you have to do. But I'm getting ready for all that stuff. But if you guys are listening to us, you guys want to listen to us, take us on the road with you wherever you go. All I got to say is that you guys can download us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Deezer, practically anywhere. Right now, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with an Apple, an account. It wants me to create a new Apple account and it won't let me do it. So I'm having complications getting you on Apple Podcasts, but I'm still in the process of working on that. I don't know. All right. You had, I thought it would linked up to the other shows that I had, on Spreaker, and all of our audios are uploaded through Spreaker.com. All right, it's a great. It really has hundreds of reach outs to where you can send out your shows. So it's just upload it. They do the rest for you. And then you could, there's some cool, neat advancements. So I recommend you guys checking out Spreaker. But there's no reason that you guys can't check us out. All right, while you guys are checking us out, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button. Don't miss a single episode. Playoff seasons are coming. You guys know once in a while I'll tune in and call a baseball game. I'm going to try to maybe work on calling a football game, but football, one thing I've learned about calling a football game is you can't necessarily do it by yourself in with everything that's going on. Okay, baseball's game's a little bit more low tempo. You could kind of call it by yourself and not have an issue. So as we start, so I want to make sure everyone's clear on that. If you guys also want to reach out personally, all right, you guys could DM through via Facebook. You guys could DM Instagram, Twitter. Just know that Facebook's probably the best way, right? You guys can reach out. I'll respond back, at a better pace than anything else. So I'd recommend doing that. All right, so I wanted to get that stuff out there right off the bat. All right, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank you guys for listening. All right, the show's not possible without you guys. Okay, so thank you. I appreciate it. But we got a lot to talk about in sports today. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Like I said, kind of combining two shows in one. Didn't get a chance to be on the program yesterday with internet complications. And so we dive into today. And what do I want to talk about today? Well, I mean, just like each and every week, we talk about the Cincinnati Reds. Very frustrated, very angry with them and their performance. You think about a team, man. That is trying to avoid last place. And the way that you've seen the Pirates play the last few nights, it's almost as if they are playoff contenders. And one thing that you can't do at the end of this season is let or allow those Pirates to gain a position in the National League Central. So you're sitting into the season, and I listen. Both teams are in the same area. These are guys that are trying to rebuild and trying to make their resume for next season. And I get it. You're starting to shut down a lot of guys, but you just cannot allow having a dropping 2 or 3 against Pittsburgh. Okay, then you go into playing today's game. Okay, you're gonna drop 3 or 3. You can't afford to get swept. All right, this is there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think we can agree on that. You got Chicago for 6 games. I was really hoping coming into to Friday's game coming up that we were able to put ourselves in a good position, and we were able to kind of contend and compete with the Cubs in the last 6 games to finish off the season in 3rd place. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the season, in 3 years from now, if you take a look back of where the Reds finished off, they're not going to look at the record for the most part. A lot of people generally just look at what position they were in. And being in 3rd is a lot better than being in 4th, and it's a lot better than being in 5th place. So we'll dive into the Reds. One thing I want to point out is that, I've been asking questions throughout the couple of weeks, and something I want us to think about and start kind of getting ourselves ready for the off season is exactly where do you think the Reds need to start focusing on in the offseason? Is it that bullpen, back end of the bullpen there, the starting rotation, the offense, the defense, outfield, infield, catchers? Is there a specific part that they need to focus on the most? And I can already tell you that, hey, if it was up to me, I'd focus on every little thing, right? There's a lot of things that I think they need to be focused on, but I want to hear And I want to know over the next few weeks as we start getting ourselves ready for the off season, just where does the Cincinnati Reds need to focus in on the most. So we'll talk about that. We'll get you the playoff picture. Congratulations to the New York Yankees and the St. Louis Cardinals for both winning their divisions over the last few days. And that is coming to after a couple, just really great, some really good victories. The Yankees winning last night in their game against Toronto. They clinched that position. So right now, the American League, they have all their divisions clinched between the Astros, the Guardians, and the Yankees. And so now you're just looking at the wild card positions. Who's going to claim wild card as a few more games is left here in the regular season? Both the Cardinals and the Dodgers have won the division respectfully. The Atlanta Braves right now sit above the New York Mets. We'll get more into that, but in the National League East, but no teams have clinched the wild card in either division. So we'll pay attention to that. We'll dive in to those stories. I want to talk about the Cincinnati Reds today as we start getting them ready for the Thursday night football game tomorrow night. Did you guys get a chance yet to look at the white uniforms with the white helmets that they are expected to be wearing for the first time this season tomorrow night? I don't know. I'll give you my thoughts a little bit later, but I really want to start kind of diving into. I want to make it apparent for every Wednesday to talk about or to dive into these to the AFC North. All right, the ins and out of it. I want to give you my take on to each week to where each and every team between the Browns, the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Bengals, where do they sit at, and how does that picture look at as we start diving into the week? All right. And then last but not least, and if I have time, I want to talk about each and every week. What I want to do is pick out a division that surprised me the most. So that's the things I was working on. That's something that I was also implicating, wanting to insert into yesterday's program that I didn't get a chance to do so. So we'll try to squeeze that in. And then we're also, hey, listen, we got AEW Dynamite going, right? It's the aftermath of the Grand Slam week last week. Both Dynamite and Rampage, a couple of title changes, and we kind of coming into tonight. We know who's going to be facing Jon Moxley for that AEW World Champion. That's going to be Hangman Adam Page. And I think the bigger question is and here's a question I want to ask for everyone. I think I'll be more focused in on answering this question. Is our AEW athletes, right, talents, are they getting lost in the shuffle? I mean, they have a large roster, almost large, if not larger than WWE's roster. And yet it feels like they're getting lost into the mix. And sometimes when you get lost into the mix, you get forgotten about. And so has AEW kind of overstepped that boundary and whatnot? So we'll talk about a lot of stuff going on here. Try to combine two shows in one day. I know we still want to get down into NBA stock. That may be postponed to tomorrow, but man, it's going to be a big show. So we're going to get right to it. Going to step away, take a timeout. When we come back, get you around local news around what's going on. FC Cincinnati tied their game yesterday as they try to make a playoff case here. We'll talk a little bit about that. Not too much into it, but we'll try to start diving into some of the other sports. All right, thank you guys for tuning in, taking you guys up until noon on a Wednesday morning. You guys are listening to the Throwing with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, 10:26 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. It's been a while since we got a chance to really talk and dive into the college football rankings each and every week. And it's just something I could never quite understand about college, college football and college basketball. And I guess, I'm never a big fan of how college rankings come a play because I feel like there's just always favoritisms and, teams that probably don't deserve to be, that don't deserve to be in the top 25 or in the top 25, and then, here's a prime example, take it away from last year is that, listen, I think it's inevitable that you're always going to see Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, all those great guys, right? They're always going to be, in the hunt. All right, you see Clemson, every few years, right? This is what happens. Every few years, teams like Clemson, USC, Tennessee, Texas, they're going to be out of the 25. They're not even going to be close inside the top 25, and then there's going to be other teams that are always in, like Alabama and Clemson. That's just a given. But then it's like, what about these other 126 other teams that deserve? And I know that the college football playoffs will be changing here over the next few years, and I don't know. I personally like it. Right, from this 4-man team, I want to say it's a 4-man to now 12-man team playoffs, and I personally like it. I enjoy the extra football that you got to see. I feel like you're giving, and I think a lot of people's eyes, you're giving people an opportunity or other teams a chance to win, football games. Because listen, the NCAA is notorious for anything can happen, just like football. Yeah, you see those blowout games, but does Georgia right now have a chance? What type of chances do they have at playing Utah and Utah could winning? I think it's, I think the change over the next few years, in college football, that it's going to be, I think it's going to be good for the sport. I think you're going to give a lot of these teams. A lot of these teams in conferences that really don't mean much, you're going to give them a reason to play football. Right? You're starting to see conferences being changed, tremendously, and you're going to start seeing the big dogs, play the big dogs at the end of the day. So I'm excited to see what this brings. But we have to get to that, and yet while we still twiddle our thumbs and wait for that, you got the rankings, the AP poll, top 25 coming in to this week. A couple teams fall short. Oklahoma moves down to number 18. Arkansas drops 10 to number 20. Minnesota finds themselves ranked this week, moving into number 21. Wake Forest drops 1. Florida moves up 4, getting ranked. But I think the bigger thing is listen, Cincinnati was in it last year. We didn't see Cincinnati, and now we get a chance to see Kentucky become. They're 4-0. They're 1-0 in the section. They're starting to face their SEC division, the first in the East. They got a game coming up on October 1st against Ole Miss, who's also 4-0. Very good game. It's going to be available on ESPN. And listen, team statistics, offense, they're ranked number in rushing. They're ranked number 81 overall offense. They're 88 over defense, or number 17. I think, that's the reason why they're in the top 10, coming in at number 7. And Ole Miss not ranked at all coming into this game. So I want to say that this is the big, the big game to pay attention to. You'll still have to. I think the games that you'll want to really pay attention to is Kentucky facing on Tennessee, Kentucky and University of Georgia, I think that's going to be a good one. But just to be able to hang in there with the conference early on, I am. It's some positive things around here to take a look at. So they'll take their chances coming up here this week. Talking about college football. All right, just give you an update of where things are at. Hurricane Ian. All right, the college football schedule trackers with Florida, South Carolina, and UCF moves football games. All right, the first major storms coming in this season. It's going to make some impact on this weekend games, as games are going to be pushed back and be postponed. I already know that when it comes down to hearing the storms, as the storms move in, they're already evacuating some of Florida. All right, UCF and SMU is moved to Sunday. It was supposed to be a Saturday afternoon, but with Hurricane Ian has delayed that kickoff. The Knights and Mustangs will meet at FBC Mortgage Stadium in Orlando on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Television coverage for the key AAC matchup will be determined at a later date. Hopefully that does make it television time. That's one thing that's also a little frustrating. Yeah, you got ESPN, but you don't got CBS, you don't got Fox, maybe FS1 to cover these games, but not with the NFL going on. Right now, there's no changes to Florida and Wake Forest just yet. Number 23, Florida State is set to host number 22, Wake Forest, on Saturday afternoon. This seems to be the case for now. Wouldn't be expected. Wouldn't be surprised if that's if that changes. Going into that game, right? Wake Forest coach Dave Clawson has his own concerns. All right, Wake Forest has scheduled to travel to Tallahassee, Florida, to take on number 23 Florida State on Saturday afternoon, but the Hurricanes has put the time and location on the game in doubt. Demon Deacons, the coach Dave Clawson, said Tuesday that player safety is the biggest concern, no matter what decision the ACC makes regarding the status of the game. I don't doubt that that player safety is first. And listen, Florida State's going to look at the game the same way. If the weather is permitted, and listen, there's a difference between a raining game and a game that is unbeatable, unplayable. Now, in my opinion, I'd suggest, hey, Florida State, just postpone the game until Sunday, make everyone happy. But, I'm not going to be the ACC and tell them what to do. I don't know if the ACC is going to be that stingy about, okay, can we move the game back? But I think what happens is that you lose money by pushing this game back, especially for Florida State. And you're prepping for a Saturday's game, and the conditions for a Saturday's game, and the problem that you run into is the conditions for how do you have to overcome playing one extra day, one extra rest, and even in a game that you're uncertain. Eastern Washington in Florida that will be moved to Sunday. That was also a noon game on Saturday. It has been moved to noon on Sunday at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville, Florida. All tickets were issued for Saturday, will be honored for Sunday. South Florida and East Carolina changes venues, originally scheduled to kick off at 7 p.m. at Raymond James Stadium, Tampa Bay, Florida. The game will see a site location change to Boca Raton at Howard Schnellenberg Field, the home of the FAU, who is not in town for its Week 5 games. It'll be kickoff It'll be playing for the Owls. They'll be playing at North Texas and Denton, Texas. The game was now kicked off at 2 p.m. All right, so we're getting down into that. South Carolina versus South Carolina State, moving up north a little bit. The original game was played on Saturday at noon Eastern. The game will now be played Thursday at 7 p.m. I believe this Thursday, so tomorrow night. Television coverage has not been announced at this time. Fans with tickets for Saturday's matchup will be available to use on Thursday night's game, which I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue. I think when it comes down to tickets issues, I think that's always been a concern. I mean, people still have work and school and whatnot. How do you get out into a football game on a Thursday night? If you have tickets and plans for Saturday, I don't know how they're going to handle that situation. According to South Carolina's athletic director, Ray Tanner, all right, he said, due to the potential impact of the hurricane on Columbia and the surrounding area, it is the best interest for the safety of the play of the game on Thursday rather than Saturday afternoon. I appreciate the cooperation of South Carolina State, head coach Buddy Paw, the South Carolina State administration, and the Southeastern Conference officials who worked closely to make the appropriate operational adjustment in order to accommodate these changes in the schedule. And for more information about that, stay tuned. Tune into CBS Sports, and you get all the details about that. Hey, listen, there's gonna be a lot of storms. All right, it happens down in the South all the time. I don't think it shouldn't be much of an issue. I'm reading some of this. I like the way that they're approaching it, the way that they're handling things. But gosh, the first impact is going to be big this weekend already, and hopefully, it doesn't impact the NFL games. I don't think so. That's my thing. I don't think it's impacting games in the NFL. I haven't heard about that because Miami is playing. Miami is going to be playing in Cincinnati. You got Tampa Bay home Sunday night, so I think that should be fine. And I just kind of want to see where Jacksonville will be on the road to Philadelphia. So it won't affect any games coming into Sunday. Carolina will be home against Arizona. So I don't think there's going to be an issue either. That's going to be an afternoon game. And I'm not going to say afternoon. I mean, really afternoon, 4:05. So they push that game back as far as possible. Atlanta's indoors, so they're not going to hit that. So NFL should not be hit at all with this as we get ready for week number 4 in the NFL and 5 in NCAA football games. Like I said, Kentucky and Ole Miss. We'll talk a little bit more about Cincinnati as the upcoming weekend approaches us. When we come back, we want to talk some NFL for you guys. Get you my takes on the Cincinnati Bengals and the AFC North. And if I have time, talk a little bit about a division that really impressed me this year. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throw-In with Justin here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All righty, we'd like to give a shout out to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All podcast shows, games calling, it's all given to you through StreamYard Studios, where you can create your interviews, podcasts, YouTube videos, host virtual business meetings, and much more. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Want to give a big shout out. Thank you guys at StreamYard for making this possible for everyone to use, and much more. All righty, 10:45 here. Let's dive into the AFC. I know that's a big conversation to talk about. Listen, I told you at the beginning of the season that the AFC is probably the biggest division of them all. And listen, the Bengals. I say the North. It's probably the second biggest division coming out of the AFC that you kind of want to pay attention to, right? You got Lamar Jackson, coming off. Last season was last season. We dive into this season, and you really just look ahead and say, "Hey, listen, this is a bravest team that will make it to the playoffs." I have no doubt about him, unless Lamar Jackson gets hurt. All right, but listen, you know, um, I think we can finally breathe if you are Bengals fans, right? The Bengals can finally breathe when it comes down to looking at their, finally picking up a victory, right? There are two key important victories in order to start a season. That is your first home game and your first road game. And it took the Bengals 3 weeks to get their first game just in general on the road. But I think even coming up bigger this weekend, okay, is tomorrow night facing the Dolphins. I mean, I don't know. All right. Sorry, belching a lot here. Excuse me. But the Dolphins, okay? So, it was last week we talked about, hey, it was a little too early to hit the panic button. Nothing to be worried about. But let me ask you a serious question, you guys. Are you that impressed with the victory that the Bengals had against the Jets last week? All right, this was a team. I told you there's two fundamental ways of winning the ball game in each and every ball game, and it's going to be the philosophy for each and every week on trying to. Hey, you got to answer these two questions. For one, it's the AFC. You should be good at it. All right, but this question here is: what are the key ways of winning a ball game? Right? I told you it was establishing the run game and then having good defense. And we already know that ever since week one, we know that the Bengals have had good defense. All right, the Bengals haven't given up many points. Okay, and they've really they're putting their ball club in an opportunity where if the offense went out there and did their job, then they would be able to win. So what's the other check is the run game. And the Bengals just don't have that run game going right now. Why don't they have that run game going right now? I think it's simple as simple can be, is because the offensive line isn't contributing to the block protection that they really need. And yeah, yes, last week was a little bit better than the weeks before. I'll give you that. But you can't base yourself off of a team that it probably shouldn't have won a single game yet. And I'm not saying that Joe Flacco and the Jets are a bad team. I don't have a lot of faith in the Jets. And because right now I see that the I see that the Giants are over there having a season to remember already. I just don't see anything big. So when I looked at the Bengals beating the Jets, I'm like, this should have been walked through the park. All right. Yeah, whenever you face the Steelers, yeah, it's a complicated game. We already know that. And yeah, they have Mitchell Trubisky, and yeah, they're dealing with, okay, the fans wanting Kenny Pickett, but they have Mitchell Trubisky, and you're trusting Trubisky for a while. So that we knew just how good and how much of a struggle we were going to see out of Pittsburgh last week, right? And then you just dive into the Cowboys, which listen, I thought without Dak Prescott they couldn't win, but listen, Cooper Rush, he's 3-0 right now. He's undefeated in his own retrospect, beating the Giants last week, beating the Bengals 2 weeks ago. Hell, I would stick with him, and as long as Cooper Rush over in Dallas is playing solid football and he's winning ball games, and there's no reason to rush Dak Prescott back to the NFL or back onto the field. right? Let let Cooper Rush go build a resume for himself for a couple of weeks. At least and I think would be key for the Cowboys. At least you have a solid backup quarterback that could get the job done in the early goings. But listen, the Bengals finally win their game last week, and I give them a round of applause for it. Right? I mean, I am. Yeah, I think that is right for them. But now the bigger challenge is coming in back home and playing against the Dolphins, who, by the way, are undefeated. Now, I wouldn't have an issue playing against the Dolphins. It's saying, hey, the Bengals are going to beat the Dolphins at home. But here's my problem with the Dolphins. It's not a problem at all. It's like, all right, but how do you go against a team who just got done beating the Bills? And everywhere you look, it's the Bills and the Chiefs that are standing on top of every mountaintop in the NFL. These are your two teams that you're supposed to win, and these are two teams last week that lost one to the Dolphins and one to the Colts. Which one is more embarrassing? I laugh a little bit. I chuckle that the Chiefs lost to the Colts. Man, Matt Ryan must be still having a field day on a Wednesday. But I mean, let's take a look around the division. I think that's a key important thing, right? I mean, they're 1-2, and now you kick off against the Bengals. You got to go on, on Thursday Night Football, so it's a short week, and that can mess up your mind. All right, now I hope that last week was a little confidence. There was a little bit more build coming into this week. All right, you got Baltimore home to Buffalo. And I think that, listen, after a win from Baltimore last week, after a loss from Buffalo, maybe that this is a little confidence for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens to beat the Bills. And we'll talk about that. Cleveland's over in Atlanta. And then the Steelers are home to the Jets. So, but where does this division stand? All right, how well do you think this division is? Do you really still think that the Bengals are still on top? I came in and put a bold prediction, that I have to sit by each and every week, watching a lot of these teams, because these teams are claiming, one, that they are, I predicted that the Bengals were going to be on top. I predicted that the Panthers were going to be on top. And there's just certain things that aren't happening yet. But when we look at the rest of the division and coming into week 4, what do we see? Right, I see a Cleveland Browns team that I just don't know what you're looking at. All right, I'm kind of flabbergasted in seeing the results so far in Cleveland Browns. Now, Jacoby Brissett, hey man, he's been a great backup quarterback so far, taking that starting position while Deshaun Watson's out. All right, I'm a little worried. Do you have to be worried about Jacoby Brissett? Do you have to be worried about the Cleveland Browns? Okay, they went to go beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, the same team that beat those Cincinnati Bengals back in week 1. Right, at the end of the day, it's win or losses. So Jacoby Brissett, they're going to go into Atlanta this week, and for some reason, I'm confident in the Browns for a moment. Right, but see, you don't know what they're 2-1. They're tied for first place with the Ravens. You don't know what you're going to see out of Cleveland Brown week in and week out. You don't know how long this Jacoby Brissett rise is going to have an effect on the season. Like I mentioned last week, all the Browns really got to do is start the season off 5-5. By the time Deshaun Watson comes back, right? I mean, they even have a chance. I wouldn't say they have a huge chance, but they even have a chance at the wild card. So, it's already been proven from the Browns that it wasn't a Baker Mayfield show, that they could actually play, that with the combination of the quarterback and the play calling and the players on the field, they could win some ball games. You take a look over in Pittsburgh. Listen, I think fans are just going to have to accept, at least for now, that Mitchell Trubisky is the better quarterback. And I don't have a problem with this. All right. The only problem that I have on the fact is that why go draft a quarterback when you have Mason Rudolph in the back and you picked up Mitchell Trubisky, right? And you draft a quarterback that I think people want to be the next franchise quarterback, and yet you're kind of, this is where I like about it. You're slowly growing them into the franchise. Because listen, that timer starts the moment that he steps on the field and he plays a snap. So do you really want him to take a snap in the first 4 weeks of the NFL, knowing that his time has started to be somebody? All right. And, listen, he wasn't the number one draft overall. So, I think the shape form. And yes, listen, Mitchell Trubisky, I think he's doing a phenomenal job handling the pressure that he's in and that he's going under. You see, the Steelers are sticking with Trubisky as they go into week 4 and as they get ready to play the Jets and Joe Flacco. But what you're also seeing is that the fans don't want to see that. They don't want to accept that. And then let's not forget about those Baltimore Ravens. All right, because as of right now, Lamar Jackson's having MVP of the season. All right, rushing over 100 yards, making plays. And, they lost to the Dolphins back in week 2, losing 20 points. And that was more of the defensive fault and Miami's offense. It had nothing to do with Lamar Jackson. I think when you go put up 35 points or 20 plus points in the first half, I think a lot of teams, you saw this with the Bengals, you take the foot off the gas a little bit and you don't apply as much pressure as you normally would have. So, I still say that the Ravens are sitting at the top of this division. Lamar Jackson, he's making an MVP case. Now, you think about a guy that deserves to get paid, hasn't gotten paid yet, starting to have a career of a lifetime. And here, listen, the Ravens are actually doing a disservice to their franchise, because the better that Lamar Jackson plays, the more money he's going to want out of his contract. And the longer he plays, all he's doing, he's making his resume. So if he does become a free agent, if he does decide to walk out of Baltimore and he wants to go sign for any other team, listen, right now, at the top of my food chain, I'll sign that quarterback in a heartbeat. I'd pay him whatever he wants to be that franchise quarterback. You're worried about his injury repeating itself. I think the biggest fear coming out of Baltimore is that you don't want another Joe Flacco. When I say Joe Flacco, you just don't want another quarterback that, has taken you to the promised land once or twice before, has gotten injured, and then was never the same again. And let's trust me, Joe Flacco, you just don't want the same thing out of Lamar Jackson. And I think that's fair to say. But Lamar Jackson has proven to you now, and how long do you sit there and wait? See, Lamar Jackson could come into the season playing salty. Hey, I want to get paid. I deserve to get paid, and I'm not going to play until I do get paid. But listen, I think he's doing a better job now, proving everyone wrong, showing everyone just how good he is, because now he could come back into the room asking for more money for one. Or, listen, if he becomes a free agent, he can go ahead and take his business elsewhere and get paid somewhere else. So, AFC North, it's kind of a scramble. All right, I will say that before we jump to hour number 2. It's a scramble for AFC North. Do I still think that the AFC West is a better division out of AFC? Yes. But here's my last statement before I want to finish. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hold on to that statement. We got to cut to a break. We're at the end of hour number 1. Coming up on hour number 2, I want to talk about, to kick off hour number 2, I want to jump straight into another division that I like the most, and I'll explain more. Plus, I have the top coming out of week 4. All right, I have the top 15 quarterbacks. And you'd be surprised who's in it. Still to come. Hour number 2 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Hour number 2 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Taking you guys up until high noon. Hopefully be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Like I said, it was kind of one of those things, kind of waking up a little late, rolling out of bed. All right. Like I said, normally I like to make sure that the shows are 9 to 11. I like to make that. I don't want to give you a consistent time each and every week or each and every day. But, because I could just roll out of bed and do the show whenever I want to. But I like to give you a consistent time frame. So what I like to do is that I do a 9 to 11. So if I got to come back an hour and do it from 8 to 10, I can. If I'm doing some things, I get caught up in the work, I could do it from 10 to noon and still have time to get things done throughout the day. But it's a Wednesday, halfway through the week, getting you guys ready for this weekend. Talk plenty of baseball in hour number 2. Talk a little bit about AEW Dynamite also, because I want to know from you guys, their roster is pretty stacked. You could get lost in that shuffle. And if you get lost, AEW is starting to give up on certain athletes that they've signed, causing even certain athletes to take a break. So I don't know. I really don't know what's going on there. And we'll have that open discussion here later on in the program. But what I want to get into here to kick off hour number 2 is first, I want to give you my quarterback rankings prediction. Week 4 quarterback power rankings. And it's nothing much to really dive into, but I did quarterback rankings back in July, and I had my own list personally with me. It's still on my phone. And I want to share you. I have the top 20. Oh, they actually have all top 32. Now, I'm not going to go through all 32 teams, right? I'm just kind of looking through here really quick. Joe Flacco. I don't have Joe Flacco on my list. I don't have Joe Flacco on my list, and he comes in and he's ranked number 30. Do I have Marcus Mariota? Yep, I had him ranked number 26 in my opinion. He comes in ranking number 29. Daniel Jones, he's number 27. He's coming in at 28. David Mills for me was 30. He's at 27. Cooper Rush was not ranked, and he's on number 26. Baker Mayfield, I had him. Listen, Baker Mayfield. This is when you got to kind of eat your own words, because I had Baker Mayfield coming out at number 11, and he's ranked 25, barely in the top 25. Jacoby Brissett ranked above him, and rightfully do so. I think that's a little salty to the taste, as the Browns and the Baker Mayfield story goes. Justin Fields, in my opinion, I put him at number 22. He's ranked 23, kind of where he's at. Geno Smith. All right, let me kind of look at him. I just kind of going through this list. I don't think I have Geno Smith on here. Nope, I don't have Geno Smith on my top 32. And listen, there's nothing against these quarterbacks. That reason I don't have them on my top 32 is I took the starting quarterback as in July for each team, and I put them in a top 32 ranking system, just like all the other polls did. All right. So Jameis Winston, just kind of looking at here. Jameis Winston was 16 for me. He's down to 21. Jared Goff, he's at 20. I put Jared Goff, in my opinion. Jared Goff, where's Jared Goff? Number 20. All right, there you go. That works. Carson Wentz, he's moved up a little bit in my rankings. Matt Ryan has also he's moved down a little bit. Jimmy Garoppolo had at number 13, but this is a quarterback that just started. So, all right, let's jump into number 15 here. I'm going to give you my top 15, and I want to share my what the week 4 power rankings have. I got Tom Brady as number 1, Patrick Mahomes number 2, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Dak Prescott in my top 10, right? Baker Mayfield in my next from 11 to 15. Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Jimmy G, and Kyle Murray, and then Deshaun Watson. Obviously, we know some key things, right? One, right, Dak Prescott's out, so that's why Cooper Kupp is ranked and not him. 2, Jimmy Garoppolo is not in the top 15 because he hasn't started. He's just starting to get back into the NFL. Number 3, all right, you got Baker Mayfield, who's just playing like utter crap. And the number 4, I think this will probably should have been number 3. Deshaun Watson's out for 12 games. But I still had him ranked in the top 15. Jameis Winston's down there, Matt Ryan's down there. You got Trevor Lawrence down in the undercard. Jared Goff, Ryan Tannehill, Tua Tagovailoa. But coming in at number 15 for week 4, according to CBS Sports, we got Tua Tagovailoa, all right, who's with the Dolphins. They're 3-0, and like I said, let's not forget he's about to be playing the Cincinnati Bengals tomorrow night. Trevor Lawrence, and I'll talk about more Trevor Lawrence here in a bit, but he's at number 14. Derek Carr is number 13. All right. Kirk Cousins with the Vikings at number 12, and number 11, Russell Wilson. All right. And I'll go ahead and shoot number 10. I'll wait for number 10 here in a moment. So you take a look at the top from 11 to 15, and Wilson, Cousins, Carr, Lawrence, and Tua. And I don't think that's a bad 15. Kirk Cousins has really made a statement in Minnesota as their quarterback. I mean, I think a lot of people suppressed in quarterback stats. All right, Derek Carr. I think it's a little understatement, although the Raiders are 0-3 right now. Okay, he hasn't really steered the ship safely. All right, especially with Devontae Adams on the squad. But I wouldn't give up on Derek Carr quite yet. I think that's where he's at, and as soon as he gets his foot settings, I don't know. And here's the problem is, I don't know. 0-3, what's worse, being 1-2 and having to compete back with the North, or being 1-3 and having to compete in the West? Trevor Lawrence expected where I was expected at. Tua, I mean, I think he should probably be up a little bit higher in my opinion. All right, 6 through 10, coming at number 6, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow at 7, Matthew Stafford at 8, Kyler Murray at 9, and Jalen Hurts at number 10. Jalen Hurts on the Eagles, really impressive. I had him down here on my season. This was a comparison on how I thought he played last season. He's been in the league for a couple of years now, and I feel like maybe just now, he has some right receivers around him, a decent offensive line. He's also versatile. He can move. All right, let's not forget about that. He has a speed, and with the right defensive and the plays for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts looks pretty good in Philadelphia. And right now, I think the upper advantage is the simple fact that Dak Prescott's not in the game. I mean, yeah, the Cowboys won back on Monday, but I think that when you look at the division and you look at the starting quarterbacks, I mean, Dak Prescott oversees every quarterback because he's the most talked about. No one really focuses on, no one really focuses themselves on on Jalen Hurts. No one really focuses themselves right now on Cooper Rush, even though he's been very impressive. No one really even focused themselves on Daniel Jones as much as even Washington's Carson Wentz. I mean, I think everyone overlooks Carson Wentz, in my opinion. And I think you dive into Kyler Murray. I think that's a statement that's left. I don't know how the Cardinals are going to be this year. They got off to a tough start. All right, Matthew Stafford on this hand. Listen, a quarterback that wants to take it back, and considering that he was coming into the season with an injury, I mean, he's trying to repeat MVP caliber production from a year ago. I think he's really up there with that. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, number 7. I think this is respectfully do so. I had him at number 6. I really wouldn't even put him at number 10, in my opinion, just because hey, listen, this is a guy who he's really struggling to get himself right on the track to begin this season. That's what I'm worried about with Joe Burrow. He hasn't been stable enough, and I know you're saying, oh, there's nothing to be panicked about. But you think about a team who went to the Super Bowl, a quarterback who went to the Super Bowl. I mean, you need nothing has really changed since last year. So I don't understand why Burrow is struggling the way he is. Lamar Jackson, I think he should be in the top five. I think that's a pretty fair statement. His MVP caliber, NFL. He leads the NFL with 12 scores. He's shown improvement, confidence, airing it out. All right, and his legs, come on, remaining the most lethal in the game. It keeps it up. Ravens, have a chance at winning the AFC North, which we talked about. I mean, he should be pretty up high, and like I said, on a contract that he's working on establishing with the Ravens. All right, coming up from 1 to 5. My 1 to 5 key importance: Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Judge, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford. All right, all sound familiar? Patrick Mahomes coming in at number 1 in CBS Sports top rankings. All right, Josh Allen follows by him. Aaron Rodgers is number 3. Justin Herbert's number 4, and Tom Brady comes in at number 5. Listen, hey, don't forget, today is Wednesday, you guys. That means Tom Brady's off, and I don't know. So Tom Brady was off last Wednesday. Did that have any effect to how the Buccaneers play this past weekend? He didn't have Mike Evans. Tom Brady was off Wednesday. He's going to get every Wednesday off for the rest of the season. And I listen, I think it's strange because no quarterback. It's one thing, like we hear this all the time, right? Quarterbacks they're starters that don't play a single snap in preseason. We say that all the time, but I mean, he having every Wednesday off in NFL, and no one's really had to ever deal with a player like Tom Brady at the age that he's at and as good as he at, in his schedule and his work environment. But obviously it's designed to give him more time at home. But, listen, he's got a lot of similarities to Aaron Rodgers. He's going great. His aging is on a sluggish and deleting offense. But still, pinpoint. He's a GOAT for a reason. That's why he's going to always be in the top 10. And just right now, what you're slowly seeing, even with Justin Herbert hurt with the Chargers playing better, is that what you're going to see these new guys come in, like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, younger guys, just going to come in and dominate the division, right? They're going to be in the top 10 each and every time, just because they're younger, they're more athletic, they can handle the pressure. Not saying that Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady can't, but when you're veterans on the team, and that your season's starting to kind of wind down, your career. Listen, it's the top. So listen, this is the top 32 quarterbacks as a week 4 showdown. Before heading into there, I want to take a break. I want to come back and I want to talk about the AFC South, because that was a division that really, really impressed me last week. And I'll explain why. You guys are listening to the Throw In with Justin here on a Wednesday morning, taking you guys up into 11 right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. $11:21 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, taking you guys up until high noon on this Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. We'll be back again tomorrow, so don't forget to tune in to us. Press those notifications so you don't miss a single episode of the Throw-In. Last week was very impressive, and, we're starting to really establish ourselves in the, a lot of these teams are starting to establish themselves. And I try not to focus too much into the standings in the first, half of the season, because things change all the time. I mean, there's only 3 games played, and Jacksonville's 2-1, Indianapolis Colts 1-1, Tennessee's 1-2. Houston's 0-2-1. So I try not to pay too close attention to what standings give you in the middle of the first month, no less the second month. I mean, I don't really want to start looking into the postseason applications or implications until after Thanksgiving. But each and every week, there's usually always a division that either surprises you the most or that doesn't deliver as much as you expect them to deliver each and every week. And so, we make a priority to really cover and to really get down in the depths with the AFC North and covering the Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers, and especially the Bengals, right? This is a Bengals football show also. So when we talk about, I want to make sure every week. Now, this was a segment that I would normally do on Tuesday after the week is done. I want to pick one division each and every week that either really surprised me the most or really underperformed the most, in my opinion, and kind of break down and talk to you a little bit about that. And my pick this week is the AFC South. Okay. Right now, where the division stands is Jacksonville sitting at 2-1, Indianapolis Colts 1-1, Tennessee Titans 1-2, and the Houston Texans 0-2-1. And like I said, it's really early on in the division. All right. But, I really, there was a really complex everything that's going on into this division. You got Houston Texans without Deshaun Watson, without a quarterback that really just, hey, let's pat ways and let's depart from Deshaun Watson. Let's move forward. And you're really seeing the hit out of Houston without Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, 0-2-1, with Deshaun Watson, and I know he would have been suspended for 2/3 of the season still, but you maybe would have felt a little bit more comfortable going into this division if you had a liable quarterback. Hey, Jimmy Garoppolo was available in the offseason, didn't decide to hire him. So we know I predicted boldly that Houston will most likely finish at the bottom of the division. Now, you take a look at Tennessee. This was a team that, if you looked at the scores last week, and I want to go back to week 3. All right, what was the scores were we looking at here? Houston lost to the Chicago Bears 23-20. All right, they scored all their 20 points in the first 3 quarters. The Bears come back to tie it up and win it overall. The Colts beat the Chiefs, and we'll talk about the Colts here in a minute. The Titans surprisingly won their first game with Ryan Tannehill against the Raiders, right? Putting up 24 points against, and they almost lost a comeback against the Raiders that were 22. The problem is with the Titans is that they're kind of in a show that they're re-imaging their players, right? They are really taking, they got Henry still, they got Woods, and right now I think the Titans, in order for the Titans to win ball games, they're going to really have to rely on that running scheme, in my opinion. All right, they're going to have to rely on Derrick Henry with 20 attempts, 85 yards, a touchdown. They're going to have to really rely on the running scheme. And let's not, I mean, I would be a little surprised. And I think the biggest thing that surprised me last week was the Jaguars beating the Chargers 38-10. Indianapolis Colts, so the entire division, other than the Houston Texans, won their games. And and Jacksonville did it on the road. Now, I talked about the Titans, the Colts here. On the other hand, Matt Ryan, I like 222 yards last week with 2 touchdowns, even underperforming from Patrick Mahomes, who went 262 yards with 1 touchdown. Taylor went 21 attempts and 71 yards. Pittman was 8 receptions with 72 yards. I mean, you would think that the Colts 0-1-1 couldn't get their head on the swivel. And this is a big, big win for the Colts. Okay, against the Chiefs. Just like when the Dolphins beat the Bills, I told you last week any team could beat the Bills. And if it was any team that could beat the Bills in the East, it would have been the Miami Dolphins, and that's what we saw. But any team, you would have walked into last week's game 0-1-1 with Matt Ryan and say, hey, listen, they didn't have a chance in the world, and they beat them by 3. Now, this, in my opinion, should give them a little bit of motivation, a little bit of kick up, saying, hey, we just got done beating one of the best teams in the NFL. Why can't we should be able to carry this on throughout the season? And then you jump down to Jacksonville, beat the Chargers 38-10. I know that the Chargers and Justin Herbert was injured, but they're playing in SoFi Stadium, Inglewood, California. Lawrence goes 262, 3 touchdown passes. One of the better performances I've seen out of Trevor Lawrence this year. And then don't forget, I sit here and I claim that this year is the important year for Trevor Lawrence, just like Justin Fields over there in Chicago. This is their second year in the NFL. And listen, Trevor Lawrence had maybe have been thrown to the wolves right away, but this was you had to win this. You had to prove to yourself this year. And right now, Trevor Lawrence is starting to prove himself just what type of quarterback he's going to be in the NFL, because there's only 2 type of quarterbacks. There's a quarterback that are going to be second strings and backup quarterbacks that are going to jump around from team to team and struggle to find a starting position. They may get an opportunity to start a season, but other than that, then they're just going to be running around. Then you got your star caliber quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Trevor Lawrence. I wasn't a big fan of his, and I wouldn't even go out there on a limb to say I'm a big fan of his now. But this is the time to shine, and this is the time to prove everyone wrong. We gave you last year. You sent off last year. Now it's this year, and now you have to prove each and every team wrong, and that's what they're doing now. And that's what they're doing now here in heading into week number 4. Week number 4. All right, what do they look at so far? You have the Jaguars over in Philadelphia, and I think that this would be actually a really good matchup, as the Jaguars will face Trevor Lawrence will face Jalen Hurst. The Chargers are over in Houston, and hopefully I don't know how Justin Herbert's going to be, but this should be a nice win for the Chargers, in my opinion. Okay. You got a divisional matchup this Sunday with the Titans and the Colts. So Ryan Tannehill taking on Matt Ryan here for the first time this season. So AFC South, nothing too impressed, but I was very impressed about the performance. I was mainly impressed about Matt Ryan and the Colts beating the Chiefs, one of the best teams in football, and the performance of Trevor Lawrence this past week. All right, let's cut to a break. Let's talk about transition into some Major League Baseball. We'll get you some Reds updates. Talk about the playoff stipulations right now. Hey, listen, games going on today. We'll get you all of that, and then we'll want to come back and close in on the AEW Dynamite, because listen, they really have established themselves pretty damn well with who's on top and who's on bottom. And as we come out from the fallout of as we approach the fallout of Grand Slam week, we saw Saraya make her debut in AEW. And although there are significant things, if you're not at the top of the game, you're lost in the shuffle, and you're starting to see that in AEW, and we'll explain more here coming up. All right, taking you guys up until noon. Let's take a break here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Fraley rolls it to Castro, second one. Bay on the first, not in time.
2 outs, and the right-hander's 0-1 pitch. In the dirt outside, and that ball pops up into the air and caroms up the first baseline, allowing India to score, and the Reds strike first on a wild pitch.
Check swing, slider, appeal. We're going to say right at the plate that he went strike 3. Tried to check, could not hold back. Couple of strikeouts and a perfect first for Hunter Green. Mike Ciani looking for his first big league hit.
He likes to keep the ball down. He likes to pitch away normally.
And it is looped into left, down, base hit. Congratulations, Michael Ciani, the first major league base knock.
The 1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Down on strikes, and Duhar.
Yeah, there's that slider again. Boy, it's been a good one here for Hunter Green. You come back after a month and a half, haven't pitched. Your arm feels like gold. There's that back door breaking ball.
Knowing your cues, these guys at first base, they're looking at cues, whether that be there he goes.
And a bouncing ball to second, off the glove of India into shallow right. Rose thought about second, and all the way to third goes Bay.
And then they decided to stand there and wait.
0-1 is grounded up the middle toward the second base bag. Barrero taps second and goes on to first for a double play. Bay scores, no RBI for Reynolds, and the Pirates have tied the game at 1.
Single, double, hit by pitch, and Castro to the plate.
Green fires at home. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a high heater. Nothing fancy there. Just good old-fashioned country hardball.
Swing and a miss. He strikes out Sawinski. Green with 9 strikeouts, tying the second highest total of his young career.
He has struck out both times he's faced Green tonight. The pitch. Swinging a ground ball down the third baseline. Diving stop Farmer. Long throw and out at first base. What a play, Kyle Farmer. Diving stop right on the line behind the bag at third. Popped to his feet and threw a bullet to Spencer Steer at first base to get the out. What a play by Farmer.
And Miguel Andujar, for the second straight time, he's come to the plate, will come up with the bases loaded. This time just one out. Hits this one deep to left center field, toward the notch, and off the top of the fence. Andujar is going to bring in 2. He's going to bring in 3. Welcome to Pittsburgh, Miguel Andujar. A 3-run double. The Bucs lead 4-1.
Well, I apologize for the abruptly delay after the action, and I forgot to hit the unmute button there, so a few minutes behind. Listen, the Reds fall short, 4-1. They moved to 60 and 95. The Pirates 58 and 97 on the season, and the Pirates are trying to make that comeback. I mean, I told you on the year, hey, listen, these are young guys just as much as the Reds, and they're trying to not finish in the last place. I think that's the race now, especially if you are this Pittsburgh Pirates, not trying to finish in last place. But listen, not all bad things. Hunter Green, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and 10 strikeouts. It wasn't until the bullpen that gave up. Farmer, who gave up 3 runs on 2 hits, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. So, the woes continue. The starting pitching, I'm solid. I'm happy. I'm satisfied with. If Hunter Green, Nick Lodolu, and Vladimir Gutierrez could come back next year and kind of establish themselves 5-6 innings and pick up, I say, sign a couple of veterans out there. Okay, listen, we know a winning team is not going to be how the season progresses, right? I mean, you're not going to win anything with rookies on the organization. You got to have veterans. You got to have veterans in that rotation. Just like earlier this year when you had Tyler Mahle and Luis Castillo, you win in every 5 games, and you knew that the Reds had a chance. I told you a couple weeks ago, Nick Lodolu on the mound. I feel confident, and I'm starting to feel confident putting Hunter Green on the mound. Say, hey, the Reds may have a chance, but the biggest question is, okay, and I want you to think about this, and we'll talk about this during the offseason, is just where does the Reds need to focus in the most on the season? All right. Where do the Reds need to focus in the most on the season? All right. Do they need to focus in on the bullpen, which I think is crappy as hell? Can't, once you turn the ball over to the bullpen for me, I turn it off. I just can't listen to it because you just don't know what they're going to give you. Most of the time, they give you utter crap. Starting rotation, I think they could build off of that. And what guys on the bench, guys on the field. What does the Reds have to work with? One thing that we will talk about next week, right? One thing that we will talk about next week is the comparison. I do want to start comparing these playoff teams, right? The Dodgers and the Yankees and the Cardinals, and what did they do? And what type of season did they have in order to make it to the playoffs, and compare that to what did the Reds do and why they did not make it to the playoffs. So we will talk about that as stuff to think about here. All right. But the Reds fall short 4-1 over the Pirates. All right. They come into today's game, very 12:35. So fifth in the last place, Pirates 58-97, taking on 60-95, fourth place in the Central. Playing today at PNC Park, 12:35 p.m. Sessa's on the mound for the Reds. He's a right-handed pitcher, 4 for 4, 4.78 ERA with the 53 strikeouts. Wilson, right-handed pitcher coming out of for Pittsburgh, 3-9, 5.95 ERA, 72 strikeouts. Lineup matchups are actually out because it's earlier in the day. So let me give you the lineup here. We got for the Reds, you got Friedel. Okay, he's be playing left field. Steer playing third base, batting second. Farmer, he's the designated hitter, batting third. Fraley, due to cleanup spot, he'll be in right field. Fairchild in center field, he'll be batting fifth. Lopez at second base, he'll be batting sixth. Reynolds will be batting seventh at first base. Barrero at shortstop, he'll be batting eighth. And Robinson, all right, he'll be doing the catching, batting ninth. Okay, also coming up for the Pirates, you got Cruz at short. Reynolds at the designated hitter, batting second, and Duhar at batting third and left field. Gamble at first base, he'll be doing cleanup. Hayes at third base, he'll be batting fifth. Batting sixth is Mitchell. He'll be playing right field. Second base is Newman. He'll be batting seventh. Goldie is doing the catching behind the plate. He'll be batting eighth, and Bay be playing in center field, batting ninth. So that is the lineup for coming up today at 12:35. Just a little less than an hour. A dive into the for the playoff spot. All right, congratulations to both the Yankees and to the Cardinals. When you look at the American League, the Astros they have clinched the they haven't officially clinched, but they'll most likely clinch it by this weekend, but by the end of the week. But Houston Astros have the leading in the division leaders. Followed by the Yankees, followed by the Guardians. Look at the wild card now. The Toronto Blue Jays is 3 games above in the wild card over Tampa Bay, 1.5. And then the Seattle Mariners, who are are sitting even 83 games, 3.5 games above Baltimore, who is looking to try to still find their way in. All right. Toronto, if you're looking for games to watch this evening, Toronto playing the Yankees today in that matchup, trying to keep their postseason alive. Tampa Bay playing is in Cleveland in today as well, and Seattle will be playing the Texas Rangers, Boston Red Sox, and Baltimore. Over there in the National League, Dodgers has won the home field advantage. You also have Atlanta Braves and the Mets. The winner will be in Atlanta Braves right now lead the East. Right, 97-58, both of them on the same record. Atlanta has the upward advantage. All right, but Atlanta is currently in the first place. All right, so the winner of the East one's gonna win the division, the other one's gonna win that first spot in the wild card. St. Louis Cardinals clinched their division. All right, San Diego Padres 2.5 games after a very good win against the Dodgers last night. In the game to watch, I say the Dodgers and Padres because that's the team to beat. The Phillies coming up next. Holding that wild card down, a game and a half out is Milwaukee. I know anything happened. 2 more games against the Dodgers. So we will talk about that all still to come. All right, let's take our final break. All right, that was the playoff picture. If you're looking for games, let me get to that here real quick. All right, look in the game. 12:35 is the Reds and the Pirates. All right. You also have the Rays and the Guardians at 6:10. The rest of this is going to be nighttime games. Braves Nationals 7:05. Orioles and Red Sox 7:10. Marlins and Mets 7:10. Phillies and Cubs at 7:40 Eastern time. All right, then you got the Cardinals and Brewers at 7:40 as well. And then the Padres and the Dodgers at 9:40 tonight. So a lot around for baseball. All right, let's take a last break. Let's come back and let's wrap things up with some wrestling as AEW Rampage Dynamite begins tonight. You guys are listening to the Throw In with Justin on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, want to give a shout out to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music, and for more information, check out epidemicsound.com. All of the music on our show and on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel is given to you through Epidemic Sound. Alrighty, wrapping up on a Wednesday. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll talk some NFL, getting you guys ready for the National Football League, Thursday Night Football, Miami Dolphins, and the Cincinnati Bengals. But coming into tonight, we got AEW Dynamite, the aftermath of Grand Slam, which was an all-week event. And so, my thing is, the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, I feel, and I don't want to sit here and never compare AEW to what to WCW and what they have come through. So, but the thing is, the problem that I'm running into is what I've been noticing is that there's been a lot of talent that has been kind of put to a wayside, right? What's ever happened to Andrade? Whatever's happened to Miro? And yes, I understand that some contracts entail that they could go off to different promotions and compete, and I'm all for that. And I also understand that we are, in order to make money, in order to keep your business going, you got to promote the right product, and that's the right talent that's up in the main roster. So I don't quite know. That I think that's my biggest fear is right now is that AEW is stacked with talent. They got plenty of talent. But my problem is that their roster, they don't highlight everyone on their roster. And I feel sort of that the AEW, that AEW has kind of overlooked a lot of people. And they're kind of lost in the mix. So right now as champions, and I think that they've done a fantastic job holding titles. You got Jon Moxley as your AEW World Champion, Thunder Rosa as your AEW Women's World Champion, Toni Storm as your AEW's Interim Women's World Champion while Thunder Rosa's out. You got the Akamade, who's your AEW World Tag Team Champions, Death Triangle, AEW's World Trios Champions, Wardlow, who is your TNT Champion, Jade Cargill, who is your TBS Champion, Pac, who is your AEW All-Atlantic Champion, plus the champions like now Chris Jericho, who's coming in, and this and that. Okay? Let me look at some guys that I haven't really heard of around page, right? You got Aaron Solo, Alex Reynolds, Andrade El Idolo, all right, who's 16-10, hasn't wrestled, completed a lot. Angelico, Anthony Ogogo, Austin. I mean, you got the Guns, obviously. Brandon Cutler. I mean, he's apparently he's been in a lot of matches. I'm trying to scroll through here. Buddy Matthews has not really been in the mix as of late. Christopher Daniels, I haven't seen quite often as of late. Claudio hasn't had as many matches in AEW since coming in. Don Hansen hasn't had many matches. Colt Cabana's kind of lost in the mix. There's just no, you're just looking around. I mean, there's really, I'm trying to find the right words for you guys to say this, because overall is that you got your guys that air on Dynamite, and you got guys that air on Rampage. And then you got guys that air on Dark. And that's where a lot of these guys are getting their matches in, on AEW Dark. That's available on YouTube. But that's not where you're going to make somebody. And I know it's kind of like, all right, before we put you on the big television, this is where you're going to go and be put up against. But there's a lot of guys looking through this roster that has been cut into the mix that I feel like doesn't get the spotlight that is needed. Sean Spears, right? Right. Where what type of, Sean Spears left WWE to go get a high mix, and he hasn't been a name at the top of the game. Scorpio Sky, another dominating figure. All right, 2022, he's only 12-2. Sandman Singh, 3-1. Sean Spears, 4-3. So you're telling me the entire year he's only had 7 matches. Santana, 5-3, 5-1 Samoan Joe. Sammy Guevara, he's 17-5, 19-6 is Ricky Starks. I mean, OT Marshall, 8-20. I mean, at least he's having matches. There's guys that don't even have 10 matches. I mean, Parker doesn't have matches. So my point that I'm trying to put out here, I mean, the point that I'm trying to put out here, okay, MJF only has 6 matches on the year. Mira, only 3 matches of this year. All right. I'm just kind of scrolling through here. Bear with me. Mark Sterling, 0-3. Luther, 0-10. I mean, even Luchasaurus is only, 13-3. And here's the biggest problem with that. Owen, I mean, look at this Owen. I mean, you got Lee Johnson, who is 5-6. 8-4 is Kyle O'Reilly. Kip Saban, who is 0-1. Right? I mean, there are guys that haven't had many. Jack Hager, so far this year, 2-5. Here's my point out. In order to build guys up there, you got to have them out there in the mat, in the ring, on Dynamite, on Rampage, and all of that fun stuff. You got to have them on the mat in order to put them up, in order to make a name for themselves. But AEW focuses themselves around certain athletes week in and week out. And I get it. Listen, I appreciate it. It gives athletes time off, right? When you can, wrestle, have an incredible match one week and get 2 or 3 weeks off. But what does that do for building talent? And especially, what does that do for building younger talent? You're wondering why guys are stepping away. And I appreciate that AEW is completely open with that. I appreciate that AEW is completely open with a talent that is going from AEW to other promotions. But you have enough talent there. You see nothing but Jon Moxley on the screen, but you have nothing but talent each and every week who can compete, once a week. That means there's 52 weeks in a year. That's 52 matches a person could have in a year, at least. I mean, they could have more. Colt Cabana, 0-3 on the year. 1 single, 1 tag, and 1 trio. What has he done for AEW to help AEW? Right? I mean, we're sitting in November, and Colt Gunn, he had 28 matches. Don Hansen only has 7 so far. So, I mean, overall, I am trying, I'm just, Brian Cage has not competed in 2022. I mean, I just, I am wondering, if you are not John Moxley, if you are not Adam Cole, if you're not a Chris Jericho or Brian, even Bryan Danielson, in my opinion, if you're not at the top of the food chain, right, and you're not making them the absolute most money, you're not going to sit there and you're going to be lost in the shuffle. All right, Wardlow, in my opinion, he's lost in the shuffle. They're not making they're not really making titles around him. Pac is lost in the shuffle. All right, Bryan Danielson is lost in the shuffle. Claudio, he's lost in the shuffle. Now, yeah, they bring up, they're brought up, all right, and they're always on the screen doing this and doing that because that's part of their, show. They're part of that group and they make those appearances each and every week. But they're lost in the shuffle. AEW Dynamite's tonight. We will be back again tomorrow to catch you up to date with everything going on. Thank you guys for tuning in to The Throne with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.